Yeah. All right, family. Good. All right, all right. So I think many of you may be familiar with a video series that Elder Ricard did. I think it started in the beginnings of the church. It was called The Path to the Mark. And then he did a part 2, which was a few years later. And Shayla kind of mentioned when I was researching doing this presentation, I went back and I looked at all the old videos that the church put out in terms of the mark of the beast. And I just wanted to see, as a fact check, where we are in prophecy, right? And it kind of startled me a little bit because I said, without even having the technology available and being present, the elders were going off in the spirit, things that were going to happen years later. But now today we can see the manifestation of these things being put into play. And it took me for a loop, so to speak. So I had two intentions when I put together this presentation. The first one was, for our body to give us an update, if you will, in terms of where we are in seeing this prophecy being fulfilled. And the second intention was I was thinking about the broader Christian and Israelite communities, right? I know for myself, when I was in the mainstream Christian church, I didn't think too much about prophecy, and all the churches I've been to, I never even had a pastor go into the book of Revelations. So, and then also, even our brothers and sisters who are in the truth, there's different doctrines when it comes to what the mark of the beast is, right? So I want to show with this presentation definitively that the mark of the beast is the RFID microchip, and this show you where we are in this course of prophecy, all right? All right, so purpose for this presentation. We went over this to show definitively that the mark of the beast is the RFID microchip. Secondly, to demonstrate that the implementation of the mark is a coordinated effort by the global elite. And I know when I was, before I was awakened to the truth, my understanding of the mark of the beast was that it was just going to fall out the sky and we all were going to have a choice whether or not we're going to take it or not. But that's not the case. This is a coordinated effort through multiple layers of, what we call our governing bodies today to bring this forth, right? And I'm going to demonstrate that a little bit to you today. Third, we talked about that, reveal where we are in prophecy. And lastly, to warn the elect throughout the four corners of the earth. All right, so I got to do a little bit of house cleaning, if you will. A lot of information I'm going to go into right now. If you've taken the academy or you've been with us for some time, you're probably quite familiar. But I have to take these steps so I can kind of build my story, because I'm thinking about those who may catch this presentation online. They're going to be able to see or be able to receive a full breakdown on what the mark of the beast is, right? So the first thing I did was define what is the word beast referring to, all right? And Kenny, we're going to start at Daniel chapter 7, verse 1.
This is the book of Daniel, chapter 7, verse 1. In the first year of Belshazzar, king of Babylon, Daniel had a dream and visions of his head upon his bed. Then he wrote the dream and told the sum of the matter.
So Daniel was given a dream, right? And we're going to go into what that dream entailed. Verse 2.
Verse 2. Daniel spake and said, I saw in my vision by night, and behold, the four winds of the heavens strove upon the great sea.
All right, so the four winds are the four angels that are holding back the winds. The great sea are nations, tongues, and kindreds. All right, precept, Revelation 17:15. Verse 3.
Verse 3, and four great beasts came up from the sea, diverse one from another.
One from another. Let's skip to verse 17.
This is verse 17.
Mm-hmm.
These great beasts, which are four kings.
Are four what?
Four kings.
They are four kings. Go ahead.
Which shall arise out of the earth.
Right. So these four kings, these four beasts are nations, are governments. All right. Verse 23.
Verse 23. Thus he said, the fourth beast shall be the fourth kingdom upon the earth.
So we are currently living in the time of the fourth beast, right? And the fourth beast is defined as the Roman Empire. Keep going.
Which shall be diverse from all kingdoms, and shall devour the whole earth, and shall tread it down and break it in pieces.
Break it into pieces. All right. So can you open up your Bible? Because I'm going to jump into it. All right. So who will institute the mark of the beast? We're going to go to Revelation chapter 13. We're going to start at verse 1.
This is the book of Revelations, chapter 13, verse 1. And I stood upon the sand of the sea and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads.
7 what?
Having seven heads.
7 heads are the 7 mountains of Rome. Go ahead.
And 10 horns.
10 horns are the original 10 European countries that were ruling. Keep going.
And upon his 10 crowns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy.
The names of blasphemy. Why? Because the Roman Catholic Church constantly and consistently through history and up until today blasphemes the name of the Most High. All right. Verse 2.
Verse 2. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard.
Like unto a leopard. Go ahead.
And his feet were as the feet of a bear.
Feet of a bear. Go ahead.
And his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. So
when you go into the book of Daniel, it describes the 4 beasts and gives it these attributes, right? So it's saying that the 4th beast is going to constitute all the attributes of the previous beast before it, right? That's verse 3. And also note here in the dragon, we know the dragon is Satan, gave this beast its power, right, and authority. Verse 3.
And I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death.
One of his heads was wounded to death. Why does it say that? Because in 193 AD, Rome was wounded, right? It was split, and there was a great mutiny in Rome and split their kingdom. And it was done by Israelites, the southern kingdom, Benjamin, Judah, and Levi. Okay? Keep going.
And his deadly wound was healed.
It was healed. Come on.
And all the world wondered after the beast.
Right, because the beast was able to be healed after it was split in 5 different kingdoms in 193 AD, right? Or there were 5 different kings ruling in that particular time. All right, verse 4.
And they worshiped the dragon, which gave power unto the beast. And they worshiped the beast, saying, who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him?
Right, so who can make war with the Roman Empire, right? Verse 5.
And there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things in blasphemies.
And blasphemies, come on, those are abominations against the Most High. And how did it do these things? It co-opted the scriptures it made itself the authority over our records, right? So it gave us what we know today as Christianity, right? Because the Roman Catholic Church is the mother of harlots, right? So in that we have blasphemies and so on and so forth. Go ahead.
And power was given unto him to continue 42 months.
Okay, that's a dispensation of time. Verse 6.
And he opened his mouth in blasphemy against the Most High.
Now we know that the popes call themselves Father, right? They also say that they are the representation of the Most High on earth, right? Blasphemy against the Most High. Come on.
To blaspheme his name and his tabernacle and them that dwell in heaven.
All right. Verse 7.
And it was given unto him to make war with the saints.
Now, when you look into the scriptures in terms of the saints, we know the saints are the children of Israel. Do you have, can you get me Psalms 50 and 5 real quick? So when we go into the scriptures, the saints are the children of Israel. Now, those saints today are those who accept Christ and keep the commandments of the Most High, right? According to Revelation 14 and 12. You got that?
Yeah.
Psalms 50 and 5?
50 and 5?
50 and 5. Go ahead.
This is the book of Psalms, chapter 50, verse 5. Gather my saints together unto me.
Okay.
Those that have made a covenant with me.
Made a covenant with me. Come on.
By sacrifice.
By sacrifice. So who made a covenant with the Most High by sacrifice? The children of Israel, right? Okay. Verse 8, Revelations 13.
And all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, whose names are not written in the book of life of the Lamb, slain from the foundation of the world.
All right. Verse 9.
If any man have an ear,
come on,
let him hear.
Let him hear. All right. Verse 10.
He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity.
Now, I know this is a favorite scripture of many. But he that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity, right? Self-explanatory. Read the rest of that.
He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword.
So we know that those who fulfill this prophecy cannot escape this prophecy. It's going to happen, right? Keep going.
Here is the patience and the faith of the saints.
Right. This is the patience and the faith of the saints, the children of Israel. All right. Verse 11.
And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth.
Come on.
And he had two horns like a lamb.
So two horns like a lamb. A lamb is innocent, right? No one wants to bother a lamb, right? Now, when you think about a lamb today, the lamb is Christ. So it tells you that that beast was going to act like Christ. It was going to profess Christ, right? And what did America do? It claimed to be a Christian nation, right? All the while leading us into slavery. Okay, keep going.
And he spake as a dragon.
Right, so he perceived himself as a lamb, but he spake as a dragon. Great blasphemies against the Most High, right? Verse 12.
And he exercises all the power of the first beast before him.
So he has all the power of Rome before him, right? This is an extension of Rome, which is America, that we call the door to Babylon. Keep going.
And causeth the earth and them which dwell within therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed.
Whose wound was healed through America. Verse 13.
And he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men.
So that fire that comes down from heaven, that's technology. That's missiles. That's all that things that they use for warfare is what John is referring to in verse 13, right? Great wonders. All right. We're almost finished here. Verse 14.
And he deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast.
Make an image to the beast. Come on.
Which had the wound by a sword and did live.
And it did live, right? Now we see the imagery of the beast every day, right? It comes through our TV screens. It's coming through our computer screens, right? There's an image that Babylon is portraying throughout the four corners of the earth.
And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed.
So do we not see America going out throughout the four corners of the earth? Those who don't live by the way that America lives, they're just destroying them, implementing democracy, all these sorts of things, where these countries didn't ask for any of that. They were peaceful. Iraq was cool. You know, they came in there, destroyed it. Libya had the highest standard of living in all of Africa. Went in there and destroyed Libya, right? So the Roman Empire, through its extension, America, will institute the mark of the beast throughout the earth. All right, so the mark of the beast through history, right? And I have here, throughout history, many Christians and non-Christians believe that the mark of the beast was existing during their times. And we're going to go through some of the examples of what the perceptions of the mark was. Can you read that, Kenny?
Pre-19th century, submission to the rites and ceremonies of the papal communion, obedience to papal power, and outward profession of its doctrine and authority.
So essentially, those who follow the Roman Catholic Church during this particular time period, that was considered to be the mark of the beast then, right? Second one.
In the mid-1800s, the Seventh-day Adventists claimed Sunday worship.
Right. Now, we're all familiar with Seventh-day Adventists, right? Now, they're holding on to this doctrine, which is well over 100 years old and is totally outdated, right? But we know that their founder, I believe his name is William Miller, and Ellen G. White, they were false prophets. They put out many prophecies saying that Christ was going to come back and so on and so forth. Of course, it didn't happen, and they lost a lot of followers, but today they're a pretty large congregation throughout the earth. But is Sunday the mark of the beast? Absolutely not. We're going to prove that. Go ahead.
Beginning in the 1930s, the social security number.
So this was back in a time when the Christian church did talk about the book of Revelation. They were trying to go in the book and trying to figure out what was going on. But when the social security number came up, you know, it was like, oh man, it's here. It's the end times, but not just yet, you know. All right, keep going.
The 1970s, the first barcode was created and used.
So this really did it, right? Because everything has a barcode. So it was like, okay, but you know, no one died. You know, there were people who still had bartering systems in some places of the world. So it wasn't necessarily you had to have a barcode to buy and sell, right? And also, it doesn't necessarily fit the prophecies, and we'll go into that. Go ahead.
Around the 60s and 70s, the philosophies of the world.
So this doctrine is still around today as well, right? A lot of people in the truth claim that the mark of the beast must be the philosophies of the world, right? Saying that if you raise your right hand and, you know, you put your right hand on the Bible, that's a philosophy, but they're using philosophy to explain the mark of the beast when you don't necessarily need to do that. You just got to go into the actual scriptures, right? Next one.
Early 2000s, free trade between nations.
So there was a doctrine that came out that said it wasn't necessarily on an individual basis, it was on a nation by nation basis, meaning, you know, if Puerto Rico trades with America, then everybody in Puerto Rico is doomed because they took the mark of the beast. But that doesn't make any sense, right? If there's someone in the land of Ephraim who has the testimony of Christ, keeping the commandments, they shouldn't be doomed because the government is trading with this government, right? So the prophecies just don't fit. Keep going.
Early 2000s brought on the RFID chip.
So the RFID chip, a lot of conservative Christian groups started to point this out as this being potentially the RFID, the mark of the beast. The elders from the earliest Genesis or beginnings of the church around this time came out with this understanding. All right, so this is a quote by one of our preferred pseudepigraphica's translators or extra biblical text translators, R.H. Charles. And he wrote something I thought really a lot of Christians and those in the church to really look and see, are they victim to what he was saying? So, Kenny, if you can read that. Real quick. This is in a book called Lectures on the Apocalypse by R.H. Charles. All right, go ahead.
Some elements of sound methods of interpretation have been preserved in the Christian writers of the church, such as Justin Martyr, Irenaeus, etc. But when we consider the conditions under which scholars addressed themselves in those days to the study of the apocalypse or revelation, we cannot but acknowledge that the valid interpretation was wholly beyond their reach.
So R.H. Charles was looking at the doctrines of all the early Christian churches, and he was saying, you know what? The interpretation of Revelations itself was way beyond the reach of all the early Christian writers and so on and so forth. And there was a reason for that, because a lot of the prophecies in the book of Revelation were to be end-time prophecies, right? So those who were trying to come up with the understanding of what it was back in the 1800s and before, earlier, or after, they didn't have the foresight to see the technology and the things that we have today to understand what that mark is, right? So I said here, a valid interpretation of Revelations, and specifically the mark, was beyond the reach of early Christians and beyond the reach of our more modern day prophets, because the mark was to be a late end time fulfillment of prophecy. Okay, so let's go into the characteristics of the mark. Revelations 13, verse 16.
And he causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or on their foreheads.
So right there, we should know that X's out the Roman Catholic Church. That X's out Sunday worship. Right? That X's out Social Security, the barcode, right? Because those things aren't implanted on our hand or our foreheads, right? But let's go into the Greek for the definition of the word mark. If you can read that out.
Strong's definition for mark, G5480, charagma, from the same as G5482. A scratch or etching.
Say that again.
A scratch or etching.
So the mark has to be a scratch or etching, right? Go ahead.
That is, stamp as a badge of servitude or sculptured figure, statue, graven mark.
So the mark has to be a scratch or a etching in the skin. And the Greek is, you can't understand what the mark of the beast is until you go into the actual word, right? And right there, that X's out all the other prophecies that they came up with for the mark of the beast. It just does not fit, right? Let's read verse 17.
And that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name.
All right. Verse 18.
Here is wisdom. Let him that have understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666.
All right. So, and that no man might buy or sell, right? And it must have the mark of a man, which is 666, right? None of the prior prophecies that they came out with fit this particular description of it being a scratch or a etching, and none of it restricted our buying and selling, right? But there's one on that list, the RFID chip, that we're going to see is going to fulfill this prophecy, right? All right, so let's get a status on the RFID chip today, right? If you can read that first bullet.
In 2014, the FDA approved the VeriChip as a Class 2 medical device.
So it was approved in 2004 as a Class 2 medical device. Now, if anybody wants to look that up, I have here the FDA approval number at the bottom, okay? Right there, plain as day, right? So what they were attempting to do was bring it in through our medical care, right? And we're going to see that. Read that out.
In 2010, the newly approved Obamacare bill contained the following.
All right.
H.R. 3200, Section 2521, page 1001, paragraph 1.
Come on.
The Secretary shall establish a national medical device registry in the subsection referred to as the registry to facilitate analysis of post-market safety and outcomes data on each device that is or has been used in or on a patient.
Okay.
And is a Class 3 device. Or a Class 2 device.
A Class 2 device. Go ahead.
That is implantable.
That is implantable, right? Meaning going into your skin. Keep going, or your body.
Life supporting or life sustaining.
Now, I can attest when the Obamacare bill first passed, I voted for Obama, right? I actually went and printed out the entire Obamacare bill, and I read this with my own two eyes. My wife thought it was crazy. I came home from FedEx with like 3 boxes of paper. I didn't know the bill was going to be that large, but $150 later. So, and also here, this article was on NBC News when the VeriChip was first approved. Notice that it has a penny next to it, right? Trying to give you some understanding of what the size of this is, but also kind of telling you that this is going to be used for your money soon, okay? And if you actually try to look for the company VeriChip, I have here in the footnotes that the company changed its name to Positive ID, all right? So people started catching on to the VeriChip company, all right? And also the Obamacare bill had reshuffled several dozen times after its approval, so you can't even find this writing in here. They split it up, hid it somewhere, but the important thing to note is that the bill that passed had this writing in it. All right, so they can do what they want now, erase stuff, put it in. We know that this was in there already. All right, so we're going to get a status of the RFID chip. It's a short 3-minute video. So
I can't believe you just paid with this hand. Like you just literally put your hand up and you're good to go. Like that. What's next? Maybe the foot?
Now, I got this video off of CNBC website, okay? So the technology has been here, but what wasn't here was the grid to implement the mark of the beast, right? That's what was missing. So a lot of people were looking at the RFID chip and say, man, listen, you can't buy and sell with this. It's just a tracking device. It's just, it's used as a GPS and things of no nation. These are actual doctrines that are out there today. But it wasn't time yet the RFID chip manifests its full power. And even as we stand here today, there's going to be future generations of the RFID chip that we don't even know about that's going to be able to do things far more that escapes our imaginations today. All right? So today, if we look at today's society, everything is leading towards smart everything, right? Smart televisions, smart toasters, smart cars, right? But what is the purpose of all this, right? Is it to make life more convenient for everybody? No, you can argue, you know. Is it helping streamline businesses and creating new avenues for wealth? Maybe, right? But what I'm going to show you that this world that we're leading to of smart everything is actually going to lead to the grid that implements the mark of the beast. All right? And let me go to the next slide. So I have here the coming world of the Internet of Things. Now, this is something that, has anyone ever heard of the Internet of Things? You heard it? Okay. I didn't expect it to be a lot of hands because as you'll see, as I get a little bit further in the presentation, they're calling it the quiet revolution, right? So this is actually happening as we speak. It actually started many years ago, and we're reaping some of the benefits thereof, but it's kind of going along quietly. So we're going to watch this quick 3-minute video that sort of explains the Internet of Things. So if you can play that out.
Refrigerator may know more about your diet than your doctor. How many objects do you have that are connected to the internet? About a decade ago, you probably would have said 1 or maybe 2 if you were an early adopter of smartphone technology. But today, I've got a work computer, I've got a personal computer, I've got a tablet, I've got a smartphone, I've got a video game console, I've got a media player, I've got a smart TV, I even have a smart refrigerator. Now, extend this trend outward, and what do we get? Well, it's estimated by 2020 there will be 50 billion objects connected to the internet. Now that's billion with a B. It's also estimated by the US Census Bureau that there will be 7.6 billion people alive at that time. So that means that for every person there will be 6.6 objects connected to the internet. We're talking about a world blanketed with billions of sensors. These sensors are taking information from real physical objects that are in the world and uploading it to the internet. It's a world where your environment transforms as you walk through it because technology that you may not even be aware of is monitoring your every move. It's a world that's constantly changing all around us due to these sensors and the internet, and we call it the Internet of Things. Let's stroll into the living room of the future. Now, immediately, this room identifies you and taps into a cloud-based profile of preferences like climate control, music, lighting, and decor. Had a long day at work? The room knows based on the calendar app on your phone and biosensors that detect the stress via blood pressure and heart rate. So it turns off the rockabilly surf guitar you usually listen to and switches to a more soothing classical music. From environmental sensors outside and maybe even worn within your clothing itself, it knows it was snowing earlier, so the climate control begins to crank up the heat in anticipation as you walk through the door. Now, on the software side, we're talking about algorithms that are so sophisticated, they may be able to predict what you want before you know you even wanted it. So when you walk to the refrigerator, it tells you not only what's in there, it tells you what you can make with the stuff you already have. And it's already telling you what's inside and what's the perfect meal based upon your mood, your activity level, and maybe even, well, your weight loss plan for some of us. As for how many objects could be connected to the internet, well, consider this. The latest version of Internet Protocol, IPv6, creates more potential addresses than there are atoms on the surface of the Earth. So we're going to live in a world completely filled with sensors, with data, reacting to us, changing every moment dependent upon our needs. I'm no longer going to be asking you, hey, what's your favorite color? What's your favorite music? I'm going to ask you, what's your reality like? I know what mine is when I walk into my house, how the world reacts to me, but how does it react to you? This is more than philosophy. It's more than technology. It is altering reality as we know it. And it's all regulated by the Internet of Things.
Right? That's the reality. Now, they put these things in these movies for a reason, to sort of tip us off a little bit, to let you know what's coming, right? But if you have the eyes to see and the ears to hear, you'll know what these things are leading to, right? So we're moving to a world where everything will be connected to the internet, right? So it's going to make it very difficult. It's going to make it very enticing, right, for those to even stay connected to the beast, because all these things are going to link you to Satan at the end of the day, right? So we're going to go into some things about the Internet of Things, right? So can you read that out?
Internet of Things is a network of physical objects, devices, vehicles, buildings, etc., that is embedded with electronics, software, and sensors that enable these objects to communicate with one another.
Right. So everything that we have will be able to communicate with one to another. Now, one thing that video didn't show you, he had a phone in his hand, right? Leading you to believe that you're going to be connected to this world, to this new society through your phone. No, it will be the RFID microchip that's in your hand or your forehead, right? Go ahead.
The interconnection of these embedded devices is expected to usher in automation in nearly all fields.
So everything will become automated, right? Everything is going to be talking to your car, your house, you know, your computer is going to have a few things to say, like, hey, can you turn me off? You know, we're moving to this world now. And it's done very quietly, too. Keep going.
While enabling advanced applications like the smart grid.
Like a smart grid, come on.
And expanding to areas such as smart cities.
Mm-hmm.
Current smart cities underway in South Korea, Spain, China, etc.
So we're going to see smart cities are the wave of the future. And it's already begun. It started in New York several years ago, right? Making the city smarter. And it's going to get to a point where if you don't have that mechanism to communicate with society, which will be the RFID chip, you won't be able to survive in society. Read that.
Monitoring and controlling operations of urban and rural infrastructures like bridges.
Like what?
Like bridges.
Like bridges. So it will be monitoring and controlling travel when it comes down to it. Keep going.
Railway tracks on and offshore wind farms is a key application of Internet of Things.
Right. And we know, according to prophecy, 1 Ezra chapter 15, verse 17, it actually may be 2 Ezra, it might be a typo. It tells us that you will not be able to travel, right, when martial law comes into play. But they're going to have a lot of things that's going to help keep traveling intact. It's going to be this Internet of Things grid. Keep going.
It is expected that Internet of Things devices will be integrated into all forms of energy consuming devices, switches, power outlets, bulbs, televisions, etc., and be able to communicate with the utility to effectively balance power generation and usage.
So these are your, and what I'm going to show you that all our major corporations are all working hand in hand to bring about this mark of the beast grid. So it's going to control your power usage, right? It's going to be able to cut you on, cut you off. You'll be able to program your power usage from a computer. You can kind of almost do that today, right? Go ahead.
The enabling technologies are RFID.
Say that again.
The enabling technologies are RFID.
That's the centerpiece technology, right? Keep going.
Near field communications, NFC, and various wireless technologies.
Various wireless technologies, all right? Go ahead.
The Internet of Things is an idea whose time has finally come. Falling technology cause developments in complementary fields like mobile and cloud, together with support from governments.
Together with support from who?
Together with support from governments.
We're going to show you, well, I'm going to show you that the governments are fully behind this world that's to come. And what would you expect? Because the mark of the beast is going to be implemented by the government. All right, go ahead.
Together with support from governments, have all contributed to the dawning of an Internet of Things, quiet revolution.
That's the Economist magazine, called it a quiet revolution. Right? So let's look at Asia. What are they doing in Asia? Go ahead.
China will spend more than $12 billion developing 90 pilot communities as part of the Smart City Initiative. The initiative outlines a 5-year plan that will eventually connect everything together. In 5 years, about 450 million rural Chinese will migrate to urban areas.
So we thought that all those ghost cities that they built in China was for nothing. They're trying to take all 450 million rural living Chinese people into the cities, right? Because you can't control people who are not living in the cities. They're living in the country. You can't do that. And so we look at today where you're seeing even our society here in America, everyone's moving to the city. That was by design, right? To get you out from the country and from those areas where they can't really control you. All right, keep going.
I'll repeat that sentence. In 5 years, about 450 million rural Chinese will migrate to urban areas, according to the United Nations. China and other Asian nations are driven development of smart cities technology because they have huge challenges with accommodating urban growth.
Okay. Next bullet.
The ultimate goal of the government's modernization plan is to fully integrate 70% of the country's population, or roughly 90 million people, into city living by 2025.
And you can ignore those numbers because we know they're trying to escalate these things. Satan doesn't have too much time left. All right, keep going.
Currently, only half that number are.
New York Times, go ahead.
The primary motive for the urbanization push is to change China's economic structure, with growth passed on domestic demands for products. Right now, are they living in rural areas where they do not consume?
So everything that China is trying to do is because they're trying to follow in the footsteps of America, right? Now, and here's the thing, the scriptures resolve everything. So it's a wonder why people even try to get us out of this book, because it's the only thing that we have at our disposal to be able to resolve the things that are going on in the earth, right? So we know that China is going to follow the footsteps of Babylon. And if you can read out 2nd Ezra chapter 16. And start at verse 41. Everybody all right? All right.
This is the book of 2nd Ezra, chapter 16, verse 41. He that selleth, let him be as he that fleeth away, and he that buyeth, as one that will lose. 42. He that occupieth merchandise, as he that hath no profit by it, and he that buildeth, as he that shall not dwell therein. He that soweth, as if he should not reap, so also he that planteth the vineyard, as he that shall not gather the grapes. They that marry, as they that shall get no children, and they that marry, not as the widowers. And therefore, they that labor, labor in vain. For strangers shall reap their fruits, and spoil their goods, overthrow their houses, and take their children captives. For in captivity and famine shall they get children. And they that occupy their merchandise with robbery, the more they deck their cities, their houses, their possessions, and their own persons, the more will I be angry with them for their sin, saith the Most High.
Come on.
Like as a whore envieth a right honest and virtuous woman, so shall righteousness hate iniquity when she decketh herself, and shall accuse herself to her face when he cometh that shall defend him that diligently searcheth out every sin upon earth. And therefore be ye not like thereunto, nor to the works thereof.
Stop right there.
This is 2nd Ezra, chapter 15, verse 45.
Come on.
And they that remain under her shall do no service unto them that have put her in fear.
Okay.
And thou, Asia, that are partaker of the hope of Babylon.
So it says, and thou, Asia, that are partaker of the hope of Babylon. Why? Because Asia is trying to implement all the policies and things that America or Babylon did to gain power on the earth, right? So now we're seeing a shift in power. And Asia is currently positioning itself to be the next world power, right? So we hear talk today about the dollar crashing, right? But Asia is right there. Khan, Tawada Elder. Keep going.
And art the glory of her person.
And art the glory of her person. All right, let's stop right there. Okay, so let's look at the world implementation of the IoT, or Internet of Things grid. What's happening across the world with this? So read that bullet point.
The Indian government's plan of developing 100 smart cities in the country.
100 smart cities in the country. Go ahead.
For which $105 million has been allocated in the current budget, could lead to a massive and quick expansion of IoT in the country.
And the department that put together that information was called Deity, right? Go figure. Okay, so next bullet.
In June 2015, Africa's leaders gathered for the World Economic Forum in Africa, in Cape Town, to discuss investments needed to implement the Internet of Things.
So don't think that Africa is being left out. by this, right? We know that, internet and things of that nature got a slow start in Africa, right? Because Babylon and more advanced countries had infrastructure in place to be able to implement the internet, right? We had a telephone system, copper and fiber laid already. But now Africa is starting to get quickly up to speed in adopting or moving towards a more internet-based society, right? Read that next bullet point.
Africa's adaptation of the IoT grid will be bolstered by the speed at which mobile technology is advancing.
Mm-hmm.
Africa has the fastest growing mobile subscriber growth in the world, currently at 72% and expected to reach 97% by 2017.
So how are they getting our brothers and sisters in Africa acclimated to the Internet of Things grid? They're doing it by mobile technology, right? And I can tell you, when we went to Lagos, Nigeria, I mean, everywhere you went, you saw a cell phone tower. And it was like, whether we were in the bush or we were downtown or in a residential area, there was always a cell phone tower there, right? And what's interesting about that is that in Nigeria, a large amount of the population lives in poverty, but an overwhelming majority of the people have cell phones. So that's how they're getting us acclimated to always being connected to the internet. It doesn't even matter now whether you are what they would consider you to be, a third world country. Nah, doesn't matter, right? And Africa is not a third world country, by the way. Next bullet point.
Several countries like the US, South Korea, China, among others, have taken lead in their preparedness to take advantage of IoT.
Right, so we know that we just had a major event just yesterday with Great Britain exiting out of the EU, right? Caused the stock markets to crash, so to speak. There's a lot of concern. And what we're seeing is that the world economy is starting to flatline. So they're going to need that new engine of growth that's going to promise jobs and prosperity and all these sorts of things. Well, that's going to happen with this quiet revolution called the Internet of Things, right? Okay. When I looked at this picture here, I thought it was the closest representation of the external powers that rule this earth, right? At the top, you have the all-seeing eye. And we know that the prince of this world, Satan, controls all the world powers, right? The scriptures tell us that. In Matthew chapter 4, he offered Christ all the kingdoms of the earth, both future and present, right? So we know it's him that's controlling everything. Below that, you have the ruling families, right? The crown council of 13. So that would be your 13 bloodlines, your Rockefellers, your Rothschilds, those whose wealth is so profound that there's no number to it. They never come up with in those lists of the world's most wealthiest people, right? Below that, you have the Committee of 300, which are the subfamilies to the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers and those of that nature. And then below that, you have think tanks. Now, on the think tanks, you have the Trilateral Commission, the Council of Foreign Relations, the United Nations, the Bilderberg Group, the Club of Rome, to name a few. And, 10, 15 years ago, when you talked about those think tanks, it was conspiracy theory, right? Now they have websites because of the advent of social media and alternative media, they couldn't hide anymore, right? So they said, forget it. We're going to put together a website. We're going to be meeting at this day at this hotel, and this is who is coming to the meeting. And it's all out there now, right? So it's no longer conspiracy theory, it's conspiracy fact. Now, beneath the think tanks, you have the world financial control layer, which are your banks, your central banks, Chase, Citi, so on and so forth, right? Below that, you have world resource control. Now, I know a lot of us here, we're paying close attention to what's going on in the world. You're seeing further and further more consolidation of companies, right? You can look at the major food companies of today. There's 6 companies that control like 80% of the labels in your supermarket. You can also look at the same blueprint for media companies as well. It's consolidation, right? And when you have it in the hands of fewer people, you can more so control the output of them, right? And all these are taking commands up the ranks, right? World population control are your governments, right? Your CIA, your FBI, your police. We've all noticed that our police forces in the cities today are becoming much more militarized, right? It's going to become commonplace to even see tanks rolling down the street, right? No big deal, right? We can go to a subway station today and see, officers with, automatic weapons or machine guns, dressed in fatigues and things of that nature, right? And then at the bottom, you have the population, the people. So what we're going to focus on today, very briefly, only got a little bit more to go, world financial control, world resource control, and population control. All right? And we're going to see how all these layers are working together to bring upon the mark of the beast. And like I stated in the beginning, I want people to walk away that see this presentation and say, you know what, the mark of the beast is not something that's going to fall out the sky. We have to start looking at nations and governments and so on and so forth with a critical eye through prophecy to understand what's happening in the world today, right? Okay, so first up, the world financial control, the banking sector. Now, I have here an article that was on Bloomberg, and it says, inside the secret meeting where Wall Street tested digital cash. Now, we think today that our cash is all digital. It actually is not. Although we do make digital transactions, there's still a lot of things on the back end that happen with physical money, okay? And we're going to go into some of the highlights of that article. Can you read that bullet point?
On a recent Monday, more than 100 executives from some of the world's largest financial institutions gathered for a private meeting.
Sounds like crafty counsel, right? Psalms 83. Next bullet.
By the end of the day, they had seen something revolutionary. US dollars transformed into pure digital assets, able to be used to execute and settle a trade instantly. That is the promise of a blockchain software.
So there's new technologies that are coming out today that is going to be able to institute pure digital money, right? And we can look to certain countries around the world like Sweden, where they've almost done away with cash altogether. I think Sweden, if you show somebody some cash in Sweden, they're going to look at you like, what am I going to do with that, right? We're heading towards that world today here in America. Go ahead.
While cash in the bank account moves electronically all the time today, there's a distinction between that system and what it means to say money is digital.
So we're not digital yet. Next bullet.
The technology's potential has captivated Wall Street executives.
So Wall Street executives are excited about this, right? Because they're taking orders from the think tanks, who are taking orders from the 13 bloodlines, who are taking orders from Satan. And here we have a CNBC article called Satan's Credit Card. And that's where the video that we first showed, where the brother was buying and selling with an RFID chip, they're trivializing it in front of our eyes because they know we ID'd this thing some years back. So now they got to trivialize and say, okay, this is not really the mark of the beast. You're tripping, right? But we know that's only to get us to buy into what they got coming next. So the commercial sector,
The number of interconnected devices, 12.5 billion, surpassed by the number of human beings, 7 billion, on the planet.
So this started years ago, right? Keep going.
With the advent of the Internet of Things, fed by sensors soon to number into the trillions.
So there are going to be sensors numbered in the trillions, right? We're getting to that Minority Report world. Go ahead.
Working with intelligent systems in the billions and involving millions of applications, the IoT will drive new consumer and business behavior.
So this thing is going to be a push not only for more convenience, right? It's going to be a push to help pick up the economy, right? So the whole world is going to be moving to this. And currently, it doesn't require much investment on companies because the technology is cheap. So now they're just trying to, the pressure is coming from the government to say, hey, you're moving into this. You need to figure out business models and so on and so forth that's going to capitalize on this new world. Go ahead.
National and supranational governments are taking an active interest in...
Say that again from the top.
National and supranational governments
are totally behind this. Come on.
Are taking an active interest in the commercial development of the IoT, encouraging common standards and censoring IoT projects.
The Economist magazine. So the governments are fully behind this, right? Go ahead.
IBM aims its Smarter Cities initiative at local government leaders.
So what IBM did was it sent consultants out to a lot of major or cities around the world to help get them jump-started on smart cities, right? Keep going.
Promoting the adoption of the IoT to produce sustainable economic growth and better quality of life.
And a better quality of life, right? Who wouldn't want a room when you walk into it and it automatically start playing music according to the mood that you're in, right? Sounds really good, but you know, we know what that's leading to. Go ahead.
The program was launched in 2010 and sent experts to 100 cities worldwide to develop recommendations for making smarter cities.
All right, go ahead.
One of the key drivers for the implementation of the IoT is the falling prices for key components of its infrastructure.
Come on.
RFID tags currently cost around 10 cents.
10 cents for an RFID chip, right? That's nothing, right? So again, they created the RFID chip some time back and was able to perfect it. And through technology and advance of technology, it was able to drive down the prices. So now it's ready to be ubiquitous in our society, right? It's not going to cost much for everybody to have an RFID chip because it's this cheap. Okay. So this is a continuation of the commercial sector, and I'll keep this kind of brief. Some projections here on the left. It says by 2020, there's going to be 4 billion people connected to the internet, right? Through the Internet of Things. Now, some projections say 6-7 billion, right? Over here to the right, this was a consulting company by the name of McKinsey & Company. And they did a whole study on the Internet of Things, and that identified the top 3 things or benefits that's going to come with the Internet of Things. The first benefit is tracking behavior. And it reads, monitoring the behavior of person, things, or data through space and time. So even though they're going to sell it in the commercial sector and say, listen, you know, all your things will be connected, you'll be able to have a better quality of life. The top find that this consulting company had was that this is going to be able to track your behavior. The second thing was enhanced situational awareness. achieving awareness of physical environment. So that's your environment adapting to you and your chip, right? Number 3, sensor-driven decision analytics. Big term, essentially assisting human decision-making through deep analysis and data visualization. So basically, everything that you do is going to be feeding back onto the internet. So that beast system is going to know your likes, your dislikes, so on and so forth. Now, they're already compiling this type of data through Facebook, through Twitter. Every time you like something on Facebook, that's recorded someplace. So it's tracking, it's getting a dossier or a profile already on you in terms of what it is that you desire. It's going to be able to identify your weaknesses, your strengths. Okay? So this society that we're moving to today, it's going to be no place to hide if you accept the mark of the beast. You're going to be totally controlled by this system. Okay. The last part of the layers is world population control governments. And the Washington Post did a study on what they call the secret government. And this was after 9/11. And it's a brief video. This is only 2 minutes. So if you can play that.
You think you know America, but you don't know top secret America. We're all aware that there are 3 branches of government in the United States, but in response to 9/11, a 4th branch has emerged. It is protected from public scrutiny by extraordinary secrecy. Top secret America.
This is a closed community, and since 9/11, it's become even more so.
The money spigot was just opened after 9/11, and nobody dared say, I don't think we should be spending that much.
It has become so big, and the lines of responsibility are so blurred that even our nation's leaders don't have a handle on it. Where is it? It's being built from coast to coast, hidden within some of America's most familiar cities and neighborhoods. In Colorado, in Nebraska, in Texas, in Florida, in the suburbs of Washington, D.C. Top Secret America includes hundreds of federal departments and agencies operating out of 1,300 facilities around this country. They contract the services of nearly 2,000 companies. In all, more people than live in our nation's capital have top secret security clearance.
It's, again, the size, the lack of transparency, and the cost. And if we don't get it right, the consequences are gigantic.
What has the government been doing since 9/11, right? They've built up a construct in America that is so large, that's cost so much money, but it's so secret, right? But what is it for? Coincidentally enough, this is happening at the time where our people are being revived in this truth, right? So this secret government was created in response to 9/11. 9/11 gave them an open checkbook to put into place a surveillance grid that far surpassed anything the world has ever seen. So another highlight from the research was the U.S. is assembling a vast domestic intelligence apparatus to collect information about Americans, right? So again, we think we're having fun on social media, changing our profile pictures every other week and so on and so forth. But all we're doing is uploading our pictures to a database so that when this grid comes down and martial law is implemented, you won't have any place to hide. They'll know how you look on a good, bad day. They'll know how you're going to look 30 years from now with the technology that they have, right? The largest and most technically advanced surveillance system in the nation's history is currently being built right now. This system is going to provide real-time information sharing between the FBI, Department of Homeland Security, Defense Department, and local police. And lastly, the secret government is an early adopter of Internet of Things to enhance warfighter effectiveness. So they're preparing for a war. All these drones and so on and so forth that we see that America has, I mean, all these things are going to go into the monitoring of a person, a citizen's everyday aspect of their life, right? Okay. This is an article called U.S. British Intelligence Mining Data from 9 U.S. Internet Companies in Broad Secret Program. So someone leaked the documents in terms of what the government was doing. And let's find out. Can you read that, Kenny?
According to the leaked details to the Washington Post, the U.S. government program PRISM, through the NSA and FBI, connects the government directly to the central servers of 9 leading U.S. internet companies.
So you can't expect us to move to a society where it's controlled by the Internet of Things and not have the government be able to monitor all of that. So the government here has linked into the leading internet servers of the U.S. So any information that's passing to and fro on that network will be monitored by those alphabet gang that we talked about. Go ahead.
Extracting audio, video chats, photographs, emails, documents, and connection logs allows government to track foreign targets.
So that was the cover for the whole thing. It was saying they were putting in this defense grid, this surveillance grid to track foreign terrorists. But we know that we're going to be labeled the terrorists in due time, right? Extremists, those who believe in the Bible. Go ahead.
According to the London Guardian, Britain is also utilizing the same capabilities through their NSA counterpart, GCHQ.
So Britain is just another extension of Rome, right? Okay, so the summary to the path of the mark. The first bullet says, the mark of the beast as prophesied by John the Revelator was to be implemented in the end times. We are now living in the latter end of the last Jubilee, which is why we know that the mark is finally there. And this is why all the earlier predictions on what the mark would be, mark of the beast, failed, because it was supposed to be an end time prophecy, right? Next bullet says, the mark of the beast grid, the Internet of Things, along with the convergence of technologies such as cloud, big data, analytics, mobile, and social collaboration, which is being called the fourth industrial revolution, is currently being implemented by the various governments of this world, including the various sectors that make up the world economy, banking, commercial, and public sectors. These main sectors take their direction from the Edomite think tanks, who take their direction from the ruling bloodline families, who take their direction from the fallen angels and Satan. The RFID chip has been around for some time, but a grid was not in place to harness its full potential, but is now made manifest with the Internet of Things, a surveillance and tracking grid for humans able to control all aspects of life. And when I was looking at the old footage, older footage of the elders, and they were touching on these, they were telling us, everything is going to be connected to that beast system. you're not going to be able to not only just buy and sell what the scriptures say, but you won't be able to even conduct yourself as a normal citizen in this new society that's upon us, right? But now we're seeing things starting to come into place. We're seeing policy put in place. We're seeing laws being written. We're seeing false flag events that are bringing on these prophecies. We're seeing wars being taken place. And all this has to coordinate together to bring upon this mark of the beast system. You have to have politicians in place. You got to take some politicians out. Some world leaders got to be put in place. Some got to be taken out. All this has happened and coordinating amongst each other with crafty counsel to bring upon the mark of the beast. Next bullet, those who reject the mark won't be able to function in a minority report society, as all factors of life will be connected to the mark of the beast grid. If we can read chapter Hebrews chapter 10, verse 38.
Hebrews chapter 10, verse 38. Now the just shall live by faith.
Say that again.
Now the just shall live by faith.
So the just shall live by faith. So if we got faith in the Most High, we'll have no problem rejecting all the benefits and so on and so forth that's going to come with this mark of the beast system, right? We're going to have to live off of the faith that we have in Christ and the Most High. So not buying and selling won't be a concern for us. Not being able to interact with our society and so on and so forth won't be a concern for us who have faith, right? Keep going.
But if any man draw back, my soul shall have no pleasure in him.
Come on.
But we are not of them who draw back.
You don't draw back. Come on.
Unto perdition, but of them that believe to the saving of the soul.
Con, that's it on that?
Con.
All right. Let's leave it on a good note. Let's talk about the mark of the Most High. All right. We've all been called to be a light in this world. So we got to be a light to our people. We got to be a light to the Gentiles. And we got to blow the trumpet. We got to warn our people for what's to come. And this is why, I love this church so much, because we do our due diligence. If there's when it comes to prophecy and things of that nature, this church really is as proactive as I've seen any church out there, and it's important, because if you don't understand prophecy, you're going to be on the wrong side of it. So let's get to the mark of the Most High. Let's go to Sirach, or Ecclesiasticus in the Apocrypha, chapter 16.
This is the book of Ecclesiasticus, chapter 16, verse 22. Who can declare the works of his justice?
Come on.
Or who can endure them? For his covenant is afar off. In the trial of all things.
Read that from the top again.
Who can declare the works of his justice? Or who can endure them? For his covenant is afar off.
His covenant is afar off, right? Come on.
And the trial of all things is in the end.
The trial of all things is in the end. Come on, we in the end times right now. Come on.
He that wanteth understanding will think upon vain things.
Mm-hmm.
And a foolish man erring imagineth follies.
What's a vain thing? A vain thing that goes against the scriptures. Anything that goes against the commandments of the Most High or to walk in Christ is a vain thing, right? And it's coming time where we got these vain things like Facebook, like Twitter, and things of that nature, right? Keep going.
My son, hearken unto me, and learn knowledge, and mark my words with thy heart.
All right, that's it on that?
No,
All right, let's go to Psalms chapter 37.
that wasn't it.
Oh, keep going, keep
Two more
going.
verses. I will show forth doctrine in weight, and declare his knowledge exactly. Verse 26.
Come on.
The works of the Lord are done in judgment from the beginning, and from the time he made them, he disposed the parts thereof.
All right, stop right there. All right, let's go to Psalms chapter 37. Almost done. You got that up?
Con.
All right.
This is Psalms chapter 37, verse 37. Mark the perfect man.
Say that again.
Mark the perfect man.
Mark the perfect man, right? One who's keeping the commandments in Christ. Come on.
And behold the upright. For the end of that man is peace.
Is peace. Come on.
But the transgressors shall be destroyed together.
So those who take the mark of the beast and get capped up in the imagination of their mind and take the chip so they can be able to be, regular participants in society, they're going to be destroyed. Keep going.
The end of the wicked shall be cut off. But the salvation of the righteous is the Most High. He is their strength.
He is their strength. Come on.
In the time of trouble. Verse 40. And the Most High shall help them and deliver them. He shall deliver them from the wicked and save them because they trust in him.
So if we're not linked in with the Most High by keeping the commandments and having the faith in Christ, we're not going to escape trouble, right? Keep going. There's more on that?
No, that's it on it.
All right. Last scripture, John chapter 8, verse 12.
This is the book of John chapter 8, verse 12. Then spake Yeshua again unto them, saying, I am the light of the world.
Christ is the light of the world. Come on.
He that followeth me shall not walk in darkness.
So if we follow after Christ, we won't walk in darkness. We have nothing to fear, right? Because the Most High did not give us the spirit of fear. Is there more on that?
But shall have the light of life.
Shall have the light of life. And that's what we're all striving for, right? Eternal life. That's it on that?
Come.
All right. Any questions? Any questions?
Hey.